I mean, your guy's losing to him.
By voters, right? And by polls.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what more Joe Biden can do to remind people what is at stake, right? That's the State of the Union theme, soul of democracy, constantly talking about battle for the soul of the country on the world stage. There is a responsibility for everybody else to also take the challenge just as seriously as the Democratic Party is in the White House right now.
I mean, I know incumbents in general are not popular right now, but do you ever think maybe we should have a new candidate?
No. A new candidate would not have the bully pulpit of the White House, right? Would not have a core of reporters that are covering his every move, which I would ask, as we discuss this here and just let slide that Trump is close enough in age to Biden, and also that Trump's speeches are largely incoherent and have been from the jump, but like somehow that narrative is the Biden narrative here. I do think that the benefit that he has is as we get closer to the day, and as you said, people pay attention, that the difference will become clear. But I'm hanging on to hope here.
Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So you see it right there. The left, in their own words, they're hanging on to hope. And that's all they have is hope. But really, look at how shallow their hope is. They're not hoping for a better future. They're not hoping for a more secure country or more opportunity for our citizens. They're not hoping for any of that. They're hoping for a win. They're hoping that they can gaslight, they can trick, and they can manipulate enough people so that Joe Biden wins. That is all they're hoping for. And that woman right there, like a lot of very dedicated leftists, they really do believe in that lazy narrative that democracy is on the ballot, that a vote for anyone but a Democrat is a vote to end the country as we know it. And these people, they do not understand the Constitution, mainly because they hate the Constitution. And they apparently don't really grasp how our checks and balances actually work. And honestly, they really don't understand that their vision of saving democracy, which is laughable, is actually the opposite of democracy. You know, they're essentially talking about single party rule where everybody's dependent on the government for their rights and for their needs and probably for their purpose even. Basically, she's talking about a leftist freaking wet dream. And the reason that they're hanging on for hope for a win is because the most recent polling, they're going to need hope. You know, the polling shows the people are actually waking up. And the more the people actually wake up, the more everyone is getting absolutely dismantled by Donald Trump. And the dismantling, it's starting in the Republican Party.
NBC News Des Moines Register poll. The Des Moines Register poll is taken by Ann Selzer. She is known as one of the best in the business and certainly the authority when it comes to polling on Iowa. So let me show you these numbers. Republican side for the Iowa caucuses. We now have Donald Trump leading with an outright majority in Iowa, 51%. Ron DeSantis, a very distant second at 19. Nikki Haley, 16. Ramaswamy and Christie at 4. We last polled Iowa in October, also with the Des Moines Register. Since then, look at this, Donald Trump's lead. He has added 8 points to his total. DeSantis up a couple. Haley, who had been moving flat, I think it's significant because in the month leading up to this poll, you had Ron DeSantis pick up the endorsement of the governor of Iowa, the endorsement of a key evangelical leader in Iowa, got a lot of press attention for completing a 99-county tour of Iowa, had a Fox News debate against Gavin Newsom in front of millions of Republican-leaning voters, and was part of that fourth Republican debate last week that Donald Trump wasn't in. So for all those things that we thought might be giving DeSantis a boost over the last month, it is Trump. Despite not participating in the debates again, it's Trump who's made the big gains. Trump who's moved to 51% in this Iowa poll. Just a couple other numbers we can show you behind this. These are evangelical voters in Iowa. Remember, Donald Trump finished third with this group in 2016 when he ran in Iowa and lost. Now he leads it overwhelmingly, exact same number as what he gets overall. Evangelicals could make up 2 out of every 3 caucus goers in Iowa. That was the case the last time around. Where Trump really turns it on, though, it is first-time caucus goers. This tends to be a younger group overall. Look at that, 63% of folks who say for the first time they're going to go to a caucus are rallying behind Donald Trump.
Yeah, so wow. You guys see that. I mean, this is like nothing we've ever seen before in the history of American politics. Even as a candidate who's really widely respected like Ron DeSantis. He's done everything right. Everything you need to do. He got all the right endorsement. He's shaken every hand that he possibly can in Iowa, all while Donald Trump just stays home fighting off the government. And what does DeSantis get? He gets a tiny little bump, and somehow Trump just grows even stronger. We have never, ever seen anything like this. And, it doesn't seem to even matter what anyone does or what anyone says. Trump just keeps picking up steam, and it really looks like he's going to run away with the whole thing. And I say the whole thing because it's not just the Republicans that Trump is absolutely crushing. He is demolishing and literally destroying Joe Biden. And really, in the most important places. We even see him picking up support over Biden in places like New York, places like California, which is awesome to see. It really doesn't matter because, it's probably impossible to really move the needle enough in those places, at least in the short term. But so far, he's beating him in all the important places with all the right people and in all the key swing states, places like Georgia and places like Michigan. Go Blue.
In these two critical battleground states, Georgia and Michigan, in our new poll conducted by SSRS, Donald Trump has a lead in both. He's currently winning both states. Now, as you noted, Joe Biden won them in 2020. They were 2 of 5 states he flipped from red to blue, and that is how he got to the White House. 49% to 44% in Georgia, Trump advantage there. An even larger advantage in Michigan, 50% for Trump, 40% for Biden. And I just want to show you in Michigan specifically, Dana, look what happens when you add in these independent third-party kind of candidates. Trump's number goes down too, but Biden's number goes down real low. So 39% for Trump, 31% for Biden. RFK Jr. pulling 20% in Michigan. Cornel West getting 6% right now. That, in addition to Donald Trump having some strength, clearly, this is another threat coming at Joe Biden from another direction.
Yeah, I mean, just look at those two numbers. There's only an 11 percentage point difference between Joe Biden and RFK right now in the important
see if
state
they
of
can
Michigan.
maintain
Yeah,
this
I mean,
support.
that's right
Yes,
now, a
yeah.
snapshot as our all polls. Good point.
Yeah. So what do we learn from that poll? Besides the fact that Michigan, thank God, is finally waking up. I think for me, I think the takeaway is the exact opposite of what all the fancy pollsters and all the $12 million a year propaganda pundits are expecting us to believe. When we add in the third party candidates, they hurt Joe Biden more than they hurt Donald Trump, which I've been calling literally since RFK Jr. switched from the Democrat primary to third party. But the mainstream liberal media, they've been trying to convince us somehow that it was going to hurt Donald Trump. Honestly, I've never understood why they believe that or why they think that. I think really it's more wishful thinking on their part than anything else, because the truth is the only reason that RFK moved to third party was because that he knew he couldn't get a fair shake with his own Democratic base in a Democratic Party or a primary. And the Democratic Party, they're proving him right by doing things like refusing to hold debates, primary debates, and literally taking candidates off of the primary ballots in early states. Only Joe Biden is on the ballot in Florida and probably more states to come. And it's all these things, all those little ancillary party politics things that are going to hurt Joe Biden. But the third party candidate, they're never going to hurt Donald Trump. I believe there's a solid 40% of this country that is going to vote for and support Donald Trump almost no matter what. The polling shows this. It also shows that Joe Biden, he has a little bit of that too. He's got about 30% of people that are insane enough to vote for him. Really, I mean, for those people, it's not even about him. For Trump's people, I think it's about Donald Trump. For Biden's people, I think those are the vote blue no matter who type people who just, nothing that happens in the world is going to make them get that message that they're wrong and that they've been wrong all this time. It's very, very difficult for people to admit that they've been fooled and admit that they've been tricked. And Democrats, they've been the most tricked. But anyway, that means if one has 40 and one has 30, that means the entire field, they're all just fighting over remaining 30%. And the Democrats, they have a math problem. And as usual, they don't understand math problems. They are not math people. And speaking of math, the polls, they're getting worse for Joe. They just keep getting worse. And now Trump's actually starting to get outside the margin of error. So now he's leading in almost every poll outside of the margin for error. And really, man, if things keep going like they're going, it could be the first time in a long time that we've seen a Republican win the popular vote, which would really, really send a message. And I don't think it's going to happen. So, but why is Biden doing so terribly? Why is there the possibility, at least, of a landslide for Republicans and a Republican popular vote win? Is it because we're all done with democracy? Is it because we don't want American democracy anymore? No, of course not. That is the most ridiculous thing ever. Regardless of a few real dedicated leftists that really do believe this, it's not because we hate democracy, which ironically, the people who really believe that a vote for anyone other than a Democrat is the end of democracy, they're actually the kind of people that don't really care much for democracy anyway. So figure that out. I can't figure it out. But no, it is not that. It is because the Democrats, the Biden administration, they have done a freaking terrible job in every single measurable way, except for maybe jobs created. But they've done great there. But the problem there is we've got a record number of people working 2 and 3 jobs, which is really, really sad when you think about it. And the Biden administration, they really have done the worst imaginable job in every single possible way. They're either completely incompetent or they're literally trying to destroy us. And I think it's probably both of those things, depending on what person in the administration we're really talking about. But the economy that we have right now is the most underperforming economy that we've ever had. And people know it. They're no longer falling for the president just getting up there and telling them, gaslighting them right to their face that they've never done better and they've never been better. People are not buying that.
Our new CBS News poll says the most important challenge facing the country is inflation, with 7 in 10 Americans disapproving of President Biden's handling of it. Next, immigration at the border. And that issue is keeping a foreign aid package with badly needed support for Ukraine and aid to Israel tied up in Congress. The state of democracy is the 3rd biggest problem in the eyes of Americans, and rounding out the top 4, gun violence. Another problem for which there seems to be little solution or political appetite for legislation that might help fix it.
Yeah, so nothing is working. Nothing is going right, man. And if people aren't falling for the gaslight, what are the Democrats going to do? They had their opportunity to actually do a good job. If they hadn't reversed literally every single Trump policy, they could have actually ridden Trump's coattails right into the history books. They could have made the world believe that they created the strongest America ever. But they couldn't. They were too proud. They were too partisan. They were too ideologically bound to do anything close to that. So they can't do a good job. That's off the table. They don't have the time and they don't have the political will. So what are they going to do? They're going to make everything about abortion, which is what they always do. It's literally the only thing that they're for sure win on ever. But here's the problem. I think single issue voters really only exist when all their other needs and all their other issues are taken care of. The first world problems. When everything is so good, you can worry about your first world problems. But when you actually have third world problems, you can't. And I think the single issue voters, I think they shrink in numbers and I think they shrink in power.
Take us inside Biden world. How concerning is this? And I know within this context, you've got new reporting on how they might use the issue of abortion, which we've obviously been talking about here in 2024.
The first reaction is that bad poll numbers are something that is somewhat baked in the minds of people who are close to the president. They've seen it before. And then they turn quickly and look at recent elections and say, when voters are asked to not just respond to a survey, but to cast a ballot, they have done so in ways that match up with some of the president's priorities. We saw it in November in Virginia with the state legislature. We saw it in Ohio with respect to abortion. On abortion, the new reporting is that the campaign will more aggressively tie Donald Trump to every instance in America where there is a restriction, a ban on abortion, when there is abortion in the news. You were talking with Senator Romney about the Texas case. To say Ken Paxton, the state attorney general there, was endorsed by Donald Trump. And so they want to link Trump in every way to the change in people's lives with respect to abortion. And to then say that is the kind of position you would have when Donald Trump talks about day one, being an authoritarian, a dictator. They're saying day by day he's becoming more autocratic. And so if they look at something practical like abortion, that's a way to get at it. Democracy might be more theoretical for many Americans. And so abortion is a way where they can link him to that day by day.
Yeah, so that's their only play. Talk about abortion, and they're going to talk about Trump being an autocrat. And the sad part is the people voting because they believe Donald Trump is an autocrat, they can't even explain to you what the hell an autocrat even is. They just know it's a super scary word that's been drilled into their head by, never-ending propaganda, which is really, really sad. Something to study, but, not much we can do about that, at least in the short term. And honestly, you cannot blame the Democrats for making everything about abortion. It's probably the Republicans' single worst marketing effort ever. Most of them, believe it or not, most Republicans actually have a pretty reasonable position when it comes to reproductive health or abortion, whatever you want to call it. One that most voters, most poll respondents at least, actually agree with. The problem is they don't know how to talk about it. And the smart ones really are too chicken shit to actually talk about it at all, while the dumb ones, which is way too many, it's all they ever want to talk about. That's why, even as everything crumbles in the world, Republicans win on literally every single issue except for that one issue. And like I said, I think that single issue voters won't be as big a threat this time around, because things really are so bad. But that said, there are a certain amount of voters, many of whom are women, that are going to get up and they're going to vote based on just that one issue. So Donald Trump, whoever the winner is, but Donald Trump, it looks like, is really going to have to get creative and try to find a way to talk about and message that issue, which he's kind of already started to do. He came out against DeSantis' 6-week ban that he signed in the dead of night, which truthfully, man, if it's a little extreme. If you're hoping to win a general election for president, that's a bit extreme. I think Trump coming out against it, I think that was the right move, especially when you look at the results so far in Iowa. I think DeSantis' policy is probably more than likely what actually got him the support and the endorsements of the evangelicals in Iowa. But the polls show that Trump's stance, it hasn't hurt, at least. May not have helped in Iowa, but it hasn't hurt. But anyway, it's a real serious issue for Republicans. And really, it's a real serious issue for everybody. It's an issue that our government probably should have put to bed about 40 years ago through actual, real legislation. But they were all too concerned with the power, the control, and the money that people divided on any issue, but especially this issue, provides. If they actually solved our problems, it doesn't really help them exploit our emotions, which is what they do. But they're going to have to solve it pretty soon. And Republicans, they're going to have to be open to at least providing something that looks like a solution if they really want to clean sweep this thing, if they really want to win. And as much as I don't want to see it, as much as I hate to say it, I don't like Nikki Haley. I don't like her attitude. I don't like her demeanor. And I really don't like her foreign policy. Actually, I don't really, that's not super accurate. I don't mind her policy. But I don't like how sure she is of her own foreign policy direction. I don't honestly think she's as smart as she thinks that she is. That said, I hate to say it, but it's more and more likely that might be the direction that Trump would actually need to go for a vice president.
2024 politics and polls, Wall Street Journal poll shows that Donald Trump has dominated the Republican field at 59%, a nearly 45% lead ahead of Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, who are roughly tied for second place, as you can see right there. But those same polls indicate that Nikki Haley is the candidate in a general election who can beat Joe Biden in a landslide. She does actually better than Donald Trump in a general.
Yeah, so I know the polls are really inconsistent. That's why we take them all basically as a whole. These days it's hard to, you can't just go off one poll. And it's hard to believe that Nikki Haley beats Joe Biden by almost 20 points. I honestly cannot imagine that. But she looks strong. I don't understand it, but, there's a lot of things that I don't understand. And I think, honestly, I think it has something to do with the power of the female vote and the answers that Haley gave on abortion in the first debate. I think that's probably what has done it, at least on the national level, if these polls are accurate. So we'll see where that goes, guys. That's all I've got. Let me know your take in the comments, guys, and let me know, what you think the Republicans can do on the abortion issue. And let me know what you think about a Vice President, Nikki Haley. And don't forget, guys, please help us to continue to grow. Like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. It really, really does help, and it really means a lot. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.